I love my parents and they loved my brothers and myself. There are four of us boys. But we didn't have books in the house because my parents are Danish-Americans, right? And it just wasn't part of what was in my house. So I'm in kindergarten, and I got to do the first story first, and that is, I fell in love with my kindergarten teacher. I mean, she would make chocolate chip cookies for us, have milk. This is a prehistoric days when a teacher was really a teacher and totally cared about her kids. And I fell in love with Mrs. Sneesby. I said, when I grow up, Mrs. Sneesby, I'm going to marry you. She said, Marky, and she touched my little head and said, that's nice, but I'm happily married. I said, he'll die. Now, because I had a difficulty with English, because I'm listening in a Danish-American house, I didn't quite get how to read. And we didn't have books at home, so it wasn't something you could go do. And there's no little library that I knew of in Glen Flora Elementary School. But the teacher liked me and said, look, we're going to put you in remedial reading. Now, the kids in class thought, oh, laugh, 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 Mark's in this low class. And I was from basically kindergarten and first grade to sixth grade, which is okay with me because, look, you can go from nowhere to somewhere great. You can go by changing your mind and changing your attitude. I learned not only how to be a reader, but to be a fast reader, a great reader, a loving reader. And I went from remedial reading to being world's best-selling author, having sold somewhere between 500 million and 600 million books. And people say, don't you know how to count? When you're selling internationally, like I'm number one in Vietnam this minute, number one in Greece, nobody in America thinks about those numbers. But those numbers compound, but they only get recorded once a year. So if you look at Guinness Book of Records, you got Miss Harry Potter as a fiction best-selling author in the world. You got me as the non-fiction best-selling author with the Chicken Soup for the Soul series, a 1 Minute Millionaire series, and the book my wife and I wrote called Ask, the Bridge from Your Dreams to Your Destiny, that just keeps going higher and higher because everybody needs to learn how to ask. But I learned how to ask as a little kid. Once I started asking and I was told there's this thing called a library, I went nuts. And pretty soon I'm making my own money. And then I have a teacher when I'm 14 years old, John Reinhardt, who is a great inspiration to me. He would let us come over to his house and study. And Ms. Reinhardt said, look, if Mr. Reinhardt could, he had books piled up everywhere in his environment. She said, if there is a way to glue them to the ceiling, Mark, and Brian and Gary Youngberg, my best friend, he would have books on the ceiling. That's how much he likes books. But he inspired me at the depth of my soul to become a page-turning reader and an omnivorous reader and say, look, you can only be eclectically wise if you get a book, you read a book, you understand a book, you think about a book, and then you figure out how are you going to apply that to your life. So I'm very thankful for special ed teachers, and one of our 5 daughters is a special ed teacher, and she takes the at-risk kids that are 15 in the morning, 15 at night, and she finds 4 in each class that are superstars. They just happen to have some liability, so what's called a disability, and she turns it into an ability. Like my remedial reading teacher, God bless that little white-haired lady whose name is long forgotten on me, made me a commandingly great reader.